But as we welcome you back to the show, let's continue to look at the opponents, the Clemson Tigers. And, of course, we'll be joined by the coach here. They wrapped up practice not all that long ago. The coach is here, just getting cleaned up real quickly, and he'll be joining us. I know he's checking out some video as well, so he'll be with us here in just a bit. But let's talk about the guy who carries the rock for the Clemson Tigers, Travis Etienne, an All-American. Last week, he set the school single-season rushing record as he passed Wayne Gallman on that list. An MVP in the ACC's championship game. Had a career high of 27 carries, 203 yards against Syracuse. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. Travis Etienne is as good as they come in America.
Yeah, there's no question about it. He's getting it done. And, Trevor Lawrence gets a lot of the publicity, but a running game makes a young, true freshman quarterback that much stronger. And Etienne, look, he's rushed for 22 touchdowns this season. That's number one in the country. He's getting a first down on 40% of his attempts. I mean, that's hard to think about how many times he's getting those big chunk plays when Clemson needs them. They're going to rely on him like they have all year to get up first downs and score touchdowns.
The thing I don't like about him, and obviously the thing that Dabo Swinney loves about him, is the guy's averaging 8.3 yards per carry. He's almost getting a first down on every single carry.
Yeah, and that's tough. Look, our offense makes it tough on defenses because we've got so many receivers to spread the ball around. So you try to cover Jerry Jeudy and Devontae Smith, but then you got Damian Harris, you got Najee Harris and Josh Jacobs that can run the ball. Well, Clemson, their design is just like ours. I mean, it's crazy how eerily similar these two teams are. And, the Clemson, they're going to try to run the ball first. And Alabama's only given up 9 rushing touchdowns this whole entire year.
Yep.
That's one behind Clemson. They've only given up 8. So very similar teams.
The rushing numbers, Clemson averaging 257 yards a game. That is 10th best in America. Alabama giving up only 120 yards on the ground per game. That's just outside the top 10 in America. I mean, it's, again, strength against strength, as you've been saying.
Yeah, and look, I think this is the two best teams are definitely playing for this game. Usually Alabama has the experience factor in their favor, but, these are two teams have been there. Dabo's he's been there and had the experience too. So like Rashad said, it's going to come down to making some big plays or turning the ball over.
And that's one of the things I do like, the fact that the two most deserving teams are here. Obviously, we're all pulling for Alabama. I understand that. But there's no question that Alabama and Clemson are the top 2 teams in America. You didn't even need a playoff to know that. You knew it back at Labor Day. It's nice that it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah, I completely agree. Look, the 14 playoff, you could debate if we want 8 teams or whatever, but the 2 best teams are playing Monday night for the national championship for, 4 years in a row where we've played up in the playoffs.
Right.
And you know what? I think this is what makes college football the best sport, the best game in town and out there, is because 2 teams like this with Coach Saban and Coach Swinney matching up once again.
Again, if you're just joining us, you're listening to the Academy Sports and Outdoors Championship Game Preview Show, also being presented by our friends at Toyota, ATI Physical Therapy, and the Soup Store. I understand from a little birdie in my ear that the coach is about a minute away from joining us, so we look forward to having him here. We'll talk in greater detail, and of course, we'll take your calls. If you'd like to hop on board and get a phone call ready for the coach, feel free. It's toll-free, 877-202-BAMA. That's 877-202-BAMA as you get set to join the conversation here as Alabama just wrapped up practice again not all that long ago, practicing over at Stanford University in Palo Alto, California, just down the 101 freeway. And you might hear some of the crowd that is outside the M Club here beginning to murmur and cheer as Coach Nick Saban now makes his way, surrounded by security inside the restaurant here. Coach with a big smile on his face and got everybody here. Coach is just getting himself settled. And looking around, Coach, all of us from Learfield, we have all of our bosses here in town. They're over there. And I see you got your wife, you got your mom, you got your aunt, you got your daughter, you got your son-in-law. Everybody's got their bosses in town, it seems.
Yeah, I guess so. That's for sure.
How were things today? How was the practice over at Palo Alto?
Well, it's really good to get out. A little different weather conditions here. We had a little, misty rain little different kind of field conditions for the players to get used to. So I think that we're going to be on a very similar surface when we play the game. So it was a great experience for them.
Injury-wise, let's get all that out of the way. Any improvement from Christian Miller today?
He actually was able to practice a little today, so that was encouraging, and I don't think he had a setback. So, maybe we'll be able to get something out of him for a little bit, at least in the game.
Cool.
Yeah, with Christian Miller, the questions like that, do you change up the practices at all? I know the depth, especially we've had so many issues at linebacker over the past couple of years. Does that change the preparation at all?
Well, I think at this point in the season, we always kind of look at it and try to cut back a little bit. And like this week, the players had 2 days off because we had a little bigger window than we had last year because we only had 7 days. This year we had, the extra 2 days. And so we got a week ahead, a day ahead, in the regular course of the week. And, on Wednesday practice, we usually go good on good, but we cut some of that stuff out so that we're just doing the prep for what we need to do for the opponent being Clemson this week, which is, challenging for them. And they can stay focused on that a little bit. I think they get tired of hitting each other anyway.
I'm sure. Coach, has Clemson, has Dabo's bunch changed much in their style of play? Everybody talks about the 4th year in a row and so on. Have you seen an evolution, a change in their approach to these ball games?
No, I think they're a little bit similar to us philosophically, especially on offense in terms of they've always been able to do what the quarterback could do. So, when they had Deshaun Watson, they threw the ball down the field. They made explosive plays. They had great balance in their offense. And I think they're a little more like that, with Jeremy Lawrence, the freshman quarterback that they have, because that really is his strength as a player. And they've been able to create really good balance running the ball and then making explosive plays down the field. Defensively, they haven't changed much at all. They thrive on making big plays. They want tackles for loss, sacks, lots of pressures, lots of movement. So real key to the drill for us is to get a hat on a hat. And I think the offense is well prepared and, take advantage of whatever they give us, and the quarterbacks will have to do a good job of executing that.
And I think it's important to point out, too, and we're not going to get into Clemson's business, but even though Dexter Lawrence is not available, their outstanding defensive lineman, you're still not facing a bunch of chopped liver. I mean, the guy who backs him up and everybody else, that's still one of the absolute best units in America.
Well, I think with Dexter they had maybe 3 first-round draft picks in the front.
Yeah.
Now maybe they only have 2. That's still pretty good, I'd say. So, and they're very athletic at linebacker. They have some guys that can rush the edges. So, this is a very good defensive team. They got, 2 long corners that, do a good job of playing man-to-man. So the matchups that we have are going to be critical, I think, with our receivers and how well they play. I know if you have field conditions, people usually say, well, if it rains or you have bad field position, it's harder to throw the ball. It's actually harder to play pass defense. Mm-hmm. You don't know where you're going. You got to redirect. You got to change direction with people. So I don't see that as a big disadvantage for our offense. But, our defensive players are going to have to do a good job against their guys.
It doesn't matter how far we travel, we can't get away from Pee Wee down in Grand Bay, Alabama. He's tonight's first questioner, brought to you by Alabama 811. Always contact 811 before you dig. To know what's below, call 811 or online, visit al811.com. Pee Wee, how are things in Grand Bay tonight?
Very well, celebrating a big basketball win today by our team over Kentucky.
Indeed, a huge win, 77-75.
Well, great. That's super. I didn't even know that.
Yep.
That shows you where I've been.
Well, you've been busy. You're excused.
It's a good thing.
They were up by 11 and had to work to hang on, but Avery's bunch did a heck of a job today.
That's good. Congratulations to Avery and our team, and that's wonderful.
Exactly. What's on your mind, Pee Wee?
Coach, as y'all been discussing about Clemson defensive line, in the game against Oklahoma, we had a period of time there where we had some back-to-back penalties that kind of put us behind the sticks and got us in long down and distance yardage. How much focus has been placed on this week of preparation of trying to limit those type of mistakes, not only on the offensive side but on our defensive side as well? That would probably be playing a very big part of the game this week.
Yeah, well, Pee Wee, we always emphasize those things. And I think that, sometimes things happen in a game where players lose their focus a little bit. I think that happened in the game last week. For 20 minutes in the game, we played really, really well. We didn't have penalties. We weren't undisciplined in terms of what we were doing. we didn't have any self-indulgent behavior, I call it, where, you know, guys kind of lose their focus and then they do what pleases them. It might not be best for them and it might not be best for the team, but you make some mental errors, you do some things, make emotional decisions, and we had 4 penalties in one drive right before the half where we had a chance to score a touchdown. We ended up having to kick a field goal, and 3 of those were undisciplined type penalties, illegal motion, things like that. So we're always working hard to try to not have those things, because you don't want to get behind, you know, when you're playing a good team, you don't want to put yourself behind in the sticks, especially a team like Clemson who thrives on trying to create those situations so they can dictate the game by the way they play, the way they pressure, and what they do. So we made a special emphasis of that this week. But I really do think that we lost our poise a little bit in the last 40 minutes of the game. I think we were baited in by Oklahoma and some of the things that they did, and then our guys got a little emotional, and you know, we lost our poise and we lost our focus. And when you play against good teams, it doesn't make any difference if you're ahead 28-0. You know, we tried to emphasize that point with our players last week, that these guys score 50 points a game. You know, we can't pick and choose when they score. We got to keep playing all the time and make it difficult for them to score. And we got to keep playing offense so that they don't have the ball. So I think we learned something from that.
You talk about staying on schedule or in front of the sticks, and a lot of that last week, 7 of 10 on third downs is pretty good. But the first and second down production I thought was some of the best we had all year. Guys like Josh Jacobs, he had a different look from where we were sitting and watching on the screen. He had a different look in his eye last week. When you see that from a player, do you try to get on the ball more, or if Jerry Jeudy's having a good day, or you just kind of stick with the game plan as it is?
Well, we have a rotation game plan, but I always look at the runners. You know, sometimes they're hot, sometimes the guys are running well. Certainly the case with Josh Jacobs, I agree, and we did get him the ball more, and he did have a very productive game. But we have a lot of confidence in the other guys in terms of what they can do. And, you know, Najee Harris has had his times where he's had a hot hand in games and been our leading rusher, and so has Damian. So we always kind of watch that closely. But these guys really complement each other really well, and I think you know, that's one of the strengths of our team.
Talking about running backs, other than the obvious answer, he's got a ton of God-given talent. Let's discuss Travis Etienne just a little bit and how good that young man is. What does he do best of what you've seen on film and in live viewing?
I think he's a real combination back. You know, he's got some speed. He's a downhill runner. He can change direction, make you miss. He's, you know, sort of stocky built, so he's difficult to tackle, and they do a good job because they got you spread out, and if they break the line of scrimmage, he's a very effective player. So our big thing on defense is going to have to be to limit their big plays. I mean, you got to be able to stop the run, and if we got to load the box all the time to stop the run, then they got 8 and 5 outside who are really good vertical threats. The quarterback's best strength is throwing the long ball, and we're going to have to do a good job on the 50-50 balls. But, you know, the more you have to do to stop the run, the more you expose yourself in those areas.
Let's go to the phones. Rainsville, Alabama is our next stop. Adam, welcome into the show. Good evening, sir.
Hey, guys. First-time caller and long-time listener. Hope you guys are doing well tonight.
Yes, sir. Thanks for being part of the show.
Well, thank you. I'll be as quick as I can. First of all, I wanted to say to John Parker Wilson and Rashad Johnson, I appreciate you guys and what you guys did to start this whole thing rolling and sticking with it and buying into Coach's process. I met you, John Parker, in 2006. I snuck around the gate after the ball game to meet you. You probably don't remember that, but I know you remember that overtime thriller against Ole Miss, so I appreciate that. 2 quick questions, one for Eli and one for the coach. First of all, Eli, as a broadcaster myself for the 2A state champion Fife Red Devils, I was wondering if there's anything special that you do before you get ready to take the air each week. And then for Coach, I saw the piece on ESPN about Tell Me a Story, and it was a great story, but I was wondering, in games like this, how much do you draw off past experience, or does that play any kind of factor? Is it more of a stay-in-the-moment kind of atmosphere, kind of mindset for you?
Coach, go right ahead, sir.
No, I want to hear your answer.
My preparation is my preparation is no different. It really is not. I mean, whether you screw up during a Clemson game or if you've screwed up during the Citadel game, you've still screwed up. So our preparation is really identical. You memorize names, numbers, you get all your biographical information together. So the means of preparing, I guess I sound like a coach, but the means of preparing is really the same 1 week to the next. Who you're playing doesn't matter.
And I've always had a tremendous amount of respect for people in the booth who do that, because I know how difficult it is when you're just doing like scatter reports on players. You know, I'm easy with numbers, you know, like I said, 5 and 8, all right, because that's how we sort of do it. But when you got to memorize everybody's name and be able to talk about them, you know, I've always thought that I would really have a hard time doing that.
Well, I'll tell you, your brain is nothing but another muscle. It really is. You train it. Now, the rest of my muscles aren't worth a darn. But my brain, I can memorize stuff. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Adam, I don't really know what story you're referring to today, because I get asked a lot of questions and I don't know exactly what gets put out there and what doesn't. But I think that if there's some experience that you had from the past against a certain team, or maybe even a team that you're playing, because of the feeling that you have in terms of the kind of team that they are, and you can emphasize something to your team now that might be beneficial, we might use a story like that. But for the most part, we're always sort of looking ahead. You know, I want the players to look ahead. I mean, when you're playing a game, the most important thing is, you know, not the external factors that everybody's excited about, and all the things you hear on TV or whatever it might be, but it's really all about what you have to do on the next play. What do I have to do to execute, be technical, and stay focused on what I need to do? And sometimes that's more difficult than people might imagine, because we're all affected by things that happen externally to us.
Coach, we're going to break away and take care of a little business right here.
Touchdown, Alabama! Devontae Smith grabs it at the goal line and walks it in for a 10-yard touchdown. That was huge here in the first couple of minutes of the fourth quarter.
It was massive. One of his 6 catches, 104 yards, and another touchdown for the sophomore from Louisiana. He has been quite the player. Everybody remember how he burst onto the scene last year, and of course the big catch in the national championship game. But that was some points that Bama really needed last week to slow down that runaway schooner.
Yeah, you know, like Coach Saban was saying, just such a fast start from Alabama scoring, and then a little lull right there at the end. But, you know, limited to Oklahoma, only 4 possessions in the entire second half. And then when you can get your chances and you can score, like Alabama was able to do in the second half, really put the game away.
Again, a quick reminder, hope you can make your plans to join us on Monday. Our coverage will begin at 4 o'clock Alabama time, 4 o'clock Central time on Monday, our pregame show. And then, of course, kickoff will be at 7 o'clock Central time. That's Monday, all coming your way right here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Coach Nick Saban joining us again after visiting with some of the fans who have literally shoehorned their way into this venue here at the Marriott tonight. And, Coach, in the back corner to our far left, we have a gentleman at a microphone with a question. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Coach, just curious what the schedule is for tomorrow, and are you going back to Stanford to practice tomorrow?
No, we're actually going to go to the stadium. All we have is a walkthrough the day before the game. We have an assigned time when we have to go, which is, I think, like 1:30 to 2:30 or something like that, where we can be at the stadium. But they have a field right outside the stadium where we can walk through if we need to. But we're not going back to Stanford. It was a nice facility. They did a great job with the hospitality for us there today. And it was a very, very, very good workout for us, and very nice locker rooms and all that. And our players seemed to enjoy getting out and maybe getting acclimated a little bit. It was a tough day yesterday with practice in the morning, the trip out here, so it was good to see them get out and move around a little bit.
How different is this game compared to the last? Because last week with the bowl festivities and you got to get there early, now it seems like this is more of a business trip. Is it easier to come out here to play? Because last week it was win or go home, just like it is this week. How much different is it?
Well, I think I don't really think it's a lot different, to be honest with you, but I'm giving you the coach and player perspective, because you know, our players were pretty focused all last week. They didn't go out a bunch. They voted for 11 o'clock curfews most of the week, and they're pretty much the same here, this time around. And with the time change and all, I think that I know it was tough to go to bed last night at 9:30, but it was 11:30 for me, and that's what time I needed to go to bed. I got up.
You were up at 4 a.m. or 3 a.m.
Tuscaloosa time too. So, but anyway, I think that in both cases it takes a tremendous amount of ability to focus and sort of lock out, a lot of things that are going outside. And when we're in a meeting or we're practicing or we're in preparation, the players really have to be zeroed in. And I've been really pleased with the way our players have been able to do that, whatever the venue.
Let's go back to the phones, gentlemen. We have Joseph joining us from Brantley, Alabama. Hello, Joseph. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
What's on your mind?
I actually have 3 questions for the coach.
Okay, Joseph.
One is, do you think our offensive line can hold their defensive line off to enough to give him times enough to find his reads and stuff, Coach?
Well, you'd asked me all 3 questions. I'm going to write them down and then I'm going to answer them, okay?
Okay, and the second one is Oklahoma seemed to pick on Patrick Surtain quite a bit last week, and I also want to know, has he made any improvements? Because that's a little worrisome with all the good receivers that Clemson's got. And like I say, and the third thing is, like I say, it's going to be challenging to try to, this is probably one of the best defenses we face besides Georgia all year. So.
Well, let's start with the offensive line, Coach. And, of course, the trenches are always big.
Right. Our offensive line has done a nice job all year, though, against some pretty good defensive teams. I mean, Mississippi State has a really good defensive team. LSU has a good defensive team. Auburn has a really good front. And I'm not making comparisons, but Clemson is probably the best all-around defensive team that maybe we've played against. But I have a lot of faith, trust, and confidence in our offensive line. I think that we have a good plan. And I think if you stay out of the long yardage situations and you keep them off balance so they can't call these, sort of crazy things that they can do on third down, which we all do, that will help our offensive line tremendously. So how we do on first and second down, as John Parker mentioned, and stay out of third down and long situations are very, very helpful, I think, to complement the offensive line. The other thing is you got to be able to run the ball and create balance so you don't get yourself in situations where they know you're going to throw the ball all the time, because I think that is what really exposes the offensive line. But I've got faith that we can get that done, and Tua is pretty good at getting the ball out of his hand quickly, which I think is also important. And a lot of the passes that, we implement in most games, are pretty quick hitters, so we don't have to protect for a long time. But once you get to third down and you got to throw the ball down the field, then all that changes. So Patrick Surtain has played extremely well for us all year long. I mean, he is a freshman. He has played better than I thought that he might. And I think that, last week, I don't know that they went into the game with the idea that they were going to get on him, but we had a lot of things in this game against Oklahoma to really stop number 5, all right? And he had a twisted ankle against Texas, and we didn't know how much he was going to play. So we really couldn't and he didn't play that well, and we probably that much, I don't want to say that well, but and we really didn't have a lot of stuff set up to try to stop number 2. And we tried to, Patrick was isolated a lot in the game, and the guy was a really good player, and the quarterback made some really good throws, and they made some plays against him. I think the 50-50 balls, which they caught a couple on Patrick last week, are really, really important when you're playing corner. Sometimes you got the guy really well covered. They throw back shoulder, or they drop the ball in there, and it's a bang-bang play, and I think you have to make those, and that's going to be a big difference if he can make those. He has good ball judgment. He plays the ball well, so I think that he can make those plays. And I think in the game he got a little frustrated, when things weren't going his way, maybe lost his focus a little bit. But the thing we try to emphasize with players, and I know as fans everybody's interested in results, is what could he learn from his experience that he had in the last game, and how can that help him play better in this game? And he's a young player, and he's going to make improvements, and I think be an outstanding player for us, which he's played very well for us all year.
And he is 6'2", so he's got the height advantage going for him.
Well, and they got a couple big receivers, so
yeah.
You always like to have those big corners to match up on those guys.
Coach, we have a visitor in the corner with a question for you right there to our left. Good evening.
What is your favorite quarter in the game? Like first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth?
If you're leading.
Yeah, if we got the lead, I like the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
My favorite play, I can tell you, is what we call victory, which
Yep.
John Parker knew that right off the bat, which means you won the game and you're kneeling down at the end to take, the clock. I guess I never really look at it that way and don't really break the game down that way because you're always looking for the next play, the next situation, the next adjustment that you have to make. What are they doing that is affecting our team that we need to make some adjustment to? So, once the game starts, you're so much in the process of play in and play out of, what to do next, what situation you're in, what do you do on fourth down, when is it 4-down territory, when you might go for it on fourth down instead of kicking a field goal. You're so into the game, you don't really think of it in terms of what segment of the game are you in. But the segment of the game and the score of the game sometimes affect the strategy that you might use, whether you're ahead, behind, in terms of, do you try a trick play? You just try to hold on to the ball, you play field position. So the game sort of dictates that, but not really the quarter in the game. But I've never been asked that question, so that's a really good question.
It is. Good question. Thank you for being with us.
Nicely done. So kind of sticking with the quarter thing, you get a game plan that would come out, or you come out with, before the game, and then you go into halftime. So first quarter, second quarter plays on. What are the second half? We always talk about making halftime adjustments. What is it? How much adjustments can you really make during on the fly in the game?
Well, I think a lot of times, sometimes you can make adjustments because the players are capable of making the adjustments. So you can go back there on the bench. We draw up every play, that they're running against us and talk about what we did well and what we need to do. And is it there's something else that we might do, or they give us a new formation or whatever. Same thing on offense. If we get a new front or, they're doing something different that we're not prepared for. Players can adjust to certain things a little more easily if they're adaptable and you've got something in a repertoire that they've done. If you're going to do something significant in terms of changes, I'll say let's wait till halftime and do that. All right, where you can sit them all down, you can draw it up, you can show them on an overhead exactly what you're talking about, and they can get it if you want to make those kind of changes. So significant changes, I think you wait till halftime. In line, sometimes we can make little changes depending on what someone's doing to take advantage of what we're doing.
Explain something else to me. We hear coaches talk about plays that are scripted, maybe the first 10 plays, whatever it is. But obviously you're not going to know how the first play is going to turn out until it's run and so on. What do? Do you say, well, that play worked or didn't work, and I'm still going to run play number 2, and I'm still going to run play 3? Or when do you throw the script away and start freelancing?
Well, I think the script is, you make the script relative to normal situations in the game. Okay, so let's just say we have a script. We run the first play on the script, we run the second play on the script. Now it's 3rd and 3. All right, we're not going to the script for 3rd and 3. We're going to go do what we're going to do on 3rd and 3.
Right.
All right, this is the plan for what we're going to do in 3rd down and short. Now we make a first down, we might go right back to the script. And sometimes the script is strategic, and you want to see what adjustments they're making and how they're playing certain formations. So you put a certain personnel group in certain formations and see how they want to play it, and then which plays you're going to go to after you're off the script.
Gotcha. Very interesting. You always hear about that, and I never had that explained. Summer is on the phone in Knoxville, Tennessee. Hello, Summer. Good evening.
Good evening. How are y'all doing out there?
We're doing fine. Summer, how are you?
I'm doing good. Coach Saban, Roll Tide tomorrow, or Monday. I just want to give y'all good wishes. And I have a question. What is Alabama's largest area that you guys feel like you could use the growth that you think Clemson is going to exploit?
Well, it's a good question. Look, I think Clemson is going to do what they do. I think that when you get this far and have as much success as they had as a team, they're going to sort of dance with what brought them here. Now, there's obviously going to be some things, and they're a team a little bit like Auburn and some other teams that we play that have a lot of tricks and gimmicks. You know, they have 4 players on their rosters that were high school quarterbacks. So their guys are all capable of, you know, throwing the ball, whether it's a reverse pass from a receiver or whatever it might be. So we fully expect to get some of those types of plays. But at the same time, I think just like us, you know, we're not going to change what we do and who we are as a team just because we're playing in a championship game. I mean, you got to be able to go execute. Your players aren't that adaptable. But I do think that Clemson has tested every team that they've played with the deep ball. And I think they like to make explosive plays on offense, and I don't think they're not going to try to do that against us. And I think it's going to be important that we keep their guys cut off and we can play those plays. And they can't take us out of our game because they're making explosive plays down the field. I think the same thing on defense for them. You know, they thrive on lots of stunts, trying to make negative plays, trying to get unblocked players to penetrate in the backfield. We got to do a good job of executing, get a hat on a hat so that doesn't happen. And sometimes a 2-yard play is an okay play because it's 2nd and 8 and you're not behind the sticks, but you don't want to be 2nd and 15. So, and I think they'll continue to do those things. They may do something special to try to impact or affect Tua. I don't know. Most of the time, you know, people have some plan to affect the quarterback, so that wouldn't surprise me if they do something a little bit different from a pressure standpoint, or maybe drop 8 guys instead of pressuring. But we won't know that until the game starts.
Coach, we're going to break away and take care of some business. If you'd like to visit with the fans here, we're coming right back.
Tua on the play action fake. Here's a slant across the middle, over the top. Jerry Jeudy, touchdown Alabama. 13 yards, a great touch over the top to Jerry Jeudy.
That was a beautiful, beautiful throw. Hey, John Parker Wilson, why is it tougher sometimes for quarterbacks to make those short, easy touch passes than it is to throw it 65 yards down the field?
No question. The swing pass out of the backfield is probably one of the hardest for a quarterback to throw, just because, you know, you're not doing it all the time, and then you get him and you see a guy wide open, and then you think about it even more. So you just kind of relax and go play a ball. But I tell you what, I love what Tua does. Tua can sling it and thread the needle when he needs to, but he's probably got as good a touch as anybody I've seen of knowing when to throw, a little bit of air, very catchable ball for the receivers. I bet if you polled all the receivers, he's a very catchable ball, makes it easy for those guys to make plays.
How about 41 touchdown passes and only 4 interceptions? You think most coaches would take that from their QB?
Yeah, especially, you know, he didn't play. This is the first game that he's really played in the fourth quarter of the entire year, so his numbers would even be greater if he would have played. But good thing for us, he didn't have to. And then you get guys like Jalen Hurts who come in who, man, you talk about developing as a quarterback. He's throwing the ball well, getting it done. So it's nice to have 2 guys back there that can go out and win games.
Then you've got Mac Jones, and there are incoming quarterbacks. I mean, the future is as bright as the existing moment, isn't
I know.
it?
Love the future with the Under Armour All-American game. We had a lot of Bama players playing in that game, so good to see that. Need to keep those guys in there. Keep them healthy, though. It scares me. I was going to ask Coach Saban, you know, I don't love those guys playing the games because they're our guys now, and we want them to stay healthy, but luckily they did. It's good to see.
Again, just a quick reminder, looking ahead to Monday, our broadcast from Levi's Stadium here in Santa Clara will begin at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That is Alabama time. Kickoff will be at 7 o'clock Central Time. We certainly I hope you can make your plans to join us here on the show. Well, Coach, this evening has flown right by, as seemingly it does. And as we wrap up our coaches' call-in shows for the season, it's time for one more of your final words, presented each week by Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing.
You know, one thing I should have told Pee Wee was when we were standing on the stage last week at the Orange Bowl.
Right.
And, you know, we were getting presented the award, and Miss Terry was standing by me, and Damian Harris was standing by her. And she said, "Oh, that was a good game." And I said, "Man, Pee Wee was talking about, you know, some of the penalties and things." And I said, "We got so many penalties. You know, we lost our poise in the game and this and that and all that." She looked at me and she looked at him and said, "Do you believe what he's saying after we won this game?" And Damian Harris said, "That's just who he is."
That's who he is. Exactly right.
So I should have told Pee Wee that one. Even when we were celebrating, I was getting on him about, you know. But, I do get on the players, and I think that sometimes I explain to them that, even when I ream them out a little bit, even when we won, even when we win, that it's always because we want them to be the best version of themselves. And we want to be the best team we can be, and that's obviously made up of the individuals. But when you can come together as a group and a team, you can do, special things. Individuals can impact that, but they can't really make that happen. And I just want to say that, this team has accomplished a lot. And I want everybody, and I hope all of our fans, I know we want more. Everybody does. We do. The players do. And we're doing everything we can to get more. But I also want to acknowledge the fact, and everybody acknowledge the fact, that this team's won 14 games. We won the SEC championship, won the Orange Bowl. We've gone through a run of, LSU, Mississippi State, Auburn, Georgia, Oklahoma. That's
murderer's row.
And I think that everybody needs to just. I'm proud of the guys for what they've done to this point, and I know that we all want more, and I get that. But we've accomplished a lot, and I'm really proud of this team and what they've been able to do. We've had a lot of great players who have had tremendous years, and I just hope that everybody appreciates, all the hard work that they do and what they've done to be successful. And
I'm sure they do.
And the fans have been very, very helpful and very supportive in helping the players do this, and we certainly appreciate that. And I know this is really, really difficult for our fans. This is a long way from home. I know we've had a lot of trips. We've got a lot of great people who are just middle-class folks who love Alabama and have supported the team and the program. And I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. And I know it's difficult for you to, go to Miami, go to Atlanta, come here. But I can't tell you that I know I appreciate it more than you know, and I know our players do as well, that you've supported this team the way you have all year long and created a great atmosphere, which impacts the future of the program in so many ways in terms of the players that we get and the recruiting classes that we have, and helps us continue to be successful. So I want everybody to know we're all in for this game, and our players are going to do everything that they can. And what I want for the team more than anything else is, how are you going to get remembered? As a coach, I want to do as much as I can do to help every player be the best version of himself in this game for every play in the game, and so that this team can be remembered and have some of the experiences of some of the championship teams we've had in the past. But we know it's great competition that we're playing against, and everybody's going to have to do their best. And I think as much support as you can give these guys will certainly be appreciated, and we thank you so much.
Amen to that. And, Coach, thank you for all of your time on all of our talk shows. We appreciate it very much. That's Coach Nick Saban. We're back to wrap it up from Santa Clara, California, right after these messages.
Tua with play clock down at 7. Repositions Najee Harris in the shotgun. Gets the snap. Tua stands in. Looks. He'll throw towards the deep corner of the end zone. Ruggs goes up for it, and touchdown, Alabama! Touchdown, Alabama! 11 yards. Ruggs just took it away from a defender, and the Tide is on top, 14-0.
Boy, of Henry Ruggs' 45 catches this year, that might have been the prettiest. It certainly was one of the biggest, JP.
It was. And the quarter of the end zone was a great throw. But, man, sometimes, even for me as a quarterback, you got to give the receiver some credit because he went up, defender trying to pull him down on the backside, able to reel it in, getting his foot down. And those kind of plays, you got to have those to win the big games. You got to step up in a big-time situation. Tua did it, but also you got to have guys like Ruggs pulling it down, making big catches for you.
Did a heck of a job right there. Hey, folks, Chick-fil-A restaurants in the state of Alabama are proud partners of the Crimson Tide. Remember to get your tailgate catering from your local Alabama Chick-fil-A. Liven up your game day in no time with Chick-fil-A catering. And we were just talking about some of the great plays from last week. The folks at Cooper Tire, who, of course, hand out the Performance of the Week award, do it each and every week. And we want to remind you to visit CooperTire.com to find your local Cooper Tire dealer. Last week's honorees, no argument, Tua Tagovailoa, 24 of 27 passing. That's almost unconscious when you start breaking it down. 318 yards, 4 touchdowns, along with Josh Jacobs, 15 carries, 98 yards, 4 receptions, 60 yards, and a touchdown. And Xavier McKinney, 5 tackles, 4 passes broken up. They have been voted the Performers of the Week by our friends at Cooper Tire. Visit coopertire.com to find your local dealer. Count on Cooper Tire, an American company since 1914. The X-Man has really come on, Rashad. Xavier McKinney, all of a sudden you turn around, and here's a sophomore, hadn't seen all that much work. Now he's the number 4 tackler on the ball club.
Yes, he's had a tremendous season for us. I mean, he's a smart guy. He plays multiple positions for us, normally as a strong safety, but when we go into that dime package, that's when he really becomes a utility piece. He drops down into the box. He's covering that tight end position, eliminating him from the game, not letting that guy be a factor, but he's also a huge blitzer. He's a great blitzer and getting to the quarterback, causing fumbles. I remember the Tennessee game, opening drive. We sent him on a blitz, caused the fumble to end up setting up the first score of the game. But like you said, a sophomore, didn't know what he was going to be able to do this season, having his first year, but he's come on strong, and he's really the alpha. And I tell him that every day, and he's doing a great job of just leading by example, and that's what I love about him the most.
Now let's talk about a freshman who was on the SEC all-freshman team, had the interception against Texas A&M earlier this year, Patrick Surtain, who one would assume is going to be one of the targets for the Clemson Tigers just because he is a freshman lined up against some veteran wide receiver. He'll be lined up against Hunter Renfrow, who's been around for like 13 years, it seems.
Right.
That's going to be an interesting matchup come Monday.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup for, Patrick Surtain. Had a great season for us as a freshman. You normally don't see a guy that is a true freshman that can come in and take along, Coach Saban's defense, which, has a lot of multiples. You got to be able to, play different coverages, diagnose things on the move. He does a great job of that. And this is going to be his biggest week by far because, T. Higgins and Justin Ross, they do a great job of going down the field and throwing the ball up for 50-50 balls is what we call it. Mm-hmm. Just throwing it up and allowing these guys to jump ball it and see how well who's going to come down with it. And they do that multiple times throughout this game, and that's going to be a huge factor in deciding the winner of this game, who comes down with the 50-50 balls. And I'm confident in Patrick Surtain and Savion Smith, the way that they've played all season. They've been great corners for us, and, I'm looking forward to them having a great game on Monday.
How much can you or any defensive backs coach teach a guy? How much is here's how you need to do it, and how much is God-given ability?
The 50-50 ball sometimes is God-given ability. But, it's all about technique as well. This game, there's guys that aren't as fast or aren't as tall as their opponent that they're going against. But if you play the game with the right technique and the way that the cornerback position is played, it has to be won at the line of scrimmage. And Patrick Surtain, being a tall guy, long arms, if he extends his hands and redirects the receiver at the line of scrimmage, early in the snap, then that throws off the timing for the quarterback. I'm sure John Parker can comment on that, and it makes it difficult to complete those timing passes and those long balls down the field because now the timing is off, and you've changed the whole pattern that this guy's trying to run.
How much is our coverage going to change from just last week when you face a quarterback like Kyler Murray who has the ability to run as well as anybody else out there? So probably a little more man coverage. Can we change it up now? Do you throw more multiples at Trevor Lawrence just because he doesn't have that X factor that Kyler Murray did?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you can. Like you said, Kyler Murray is a guy that could make plays with his feet. So for him, you don't want to play what we call two-man, where we have 2 high safeties and then everybody else is playing underneath man coverage with their backs turned to the quarterback. Because then at that point, he can extend the play on a run and no one knows it. But with Trevor Lawrence, we can do those type of things and put extra guys in coverage because he isn't a guy that's going to try and make the plays with his legs. He can make those plays, but he isn't looking to do that. So it favors us on the back end to be able to roll our coverages. Say, Savion or Patrick is having a tough time early on, to roll extra coverage over to him and not have to worry about that factor of the quarterback running the ball. That is a huge factor for us this week.
And two-man is the hardest coverage to throw against. We hate it, and I think Alabama defense ran it one time last week. Kyler Murray immediately saw it. He took off. He might have scored a touchdown. I mean, it was a big pickup.
Yep.
So that's another coverage that we can add this week that last week we just simply couldn't do.
You're learning a lot from John Parker Wilson and Rashad Johnson as we bring you tonight's Academy Sports and Outdoors Championship Game Preview Show. Back with a final word from Santa Clara, California. John Parker Wilson. All right, time to hold our respective feet to the fire. Obviously, Bama's going to win, so we all think and hope. What's the key to the ball game as you see it?
You know, after listening to Coach Saban, I think it's going to be these big explosive plays. As much as Clemson likes to do it, Alabama has hung their hat on it on offense. So whoever makes those bigger plays, and they were going against two defenses. I mean, Clemson's only given up 13 points a game. Bama's given up 16. These are two evenly matched teams. And these big games usually come to, like you said, in the trenches up front, turnovers, probably going to come down to the kicking game. So hopefully Alabama's ready for that and making those big plays.
A big thank you to John Parker Wilson and Rashad Johnson. Our engineer producer here, Tom Stipe, Jerry Kelly back at the studio. Butch Owens, our spotter, helping out as a production assistant here, doing a great job. I'm Eli Gold, and of course for the coach, we thank you all for joining us. We'll talk to you Monday. Until then, roll Tide.